Yes, sir. All right, you get my list out.
Okay. I hope it's not too big.
No, it's not.
Because you might find yourself getting really bored.
Yeah. Okay, well, I guess let's start in the beginning. How did you and Jim meet?
Well, he actually rented a house next door to my folks on Bridge Road, and I would come up there regularly. I was not living there at the time. I had my daughter Lisa, and we'd see him, but that didn't develop into anything. Um, what happened is that he was living on West Street. Eventually, he moved to West Street in off of by the Forbes Library, and I was on Arnold Avenue, and we'd see each other. He'd be walking or running when I was bringing my daughter to the bus stop, so we just talked. And I thought I was very special to him, but it was like what I realized afterwards is that he talks to everybody. He was just very friendly to everyone, so that was delusional on my part. But eventually, what happened is that I asked him if he wanted to go out and have a drink sometime. And he said, sure. Well, 6 months went by and nothing happened. And then but he was the same, so I knew he wasn't brushing me off. And he would talk to me as normal and we'd get along. And he said he was moving. So I said, well, I'll take the chance again. This was in May. I first asked him in November, and this May took 6 months. And I said, do you still want to go out for that drink? And he said yes. So he took my phone number. I said, well, that's a good sign. And the rest was just developed. But yeah, like I said, I always thought he was everybody thinks he's very friendly and nice, but I thought it was something special with me, but I realized he's like that with everybody.
You answered a little. You can keep asking. I'm just gonna move the light. You answered a little bit of it, but what was your first impression of Jim, or the first time you hung out together, or?
Oh, I really liked him. He was just very different than anybody I had ever been with. He was just a very nice person. And at that time, I was a single mom, so I had been divorced. So, I was seeing other guys, but it was nothing like him. He was just liked the same things I did. He was very down to earth. There wasn't all this pressure or anything. It was just very, very nice guy. Yeah.
How old were you guys when you met?
Let me see. I was 25. About 25. And so he's 3 years younger than me, so he was like 22. Yeah.
Okay. What do you enjoy about biking and biking with Jim?
Just having his presence. It's nice because you can just kind of go along. Sometimes you don't say anything for a while. Other times you point things out that you both enjoy, and you stop and look at stuff. He's like a bud, really, when you come right down to it. And he's just very patient for the most part, except if we have to do the same trail again. He doesn't like to go back the same way he came. So, and he gets tired of certain ways of going. So if he's done the same route a couple of days in a row, then he gets like, let's not do this for a while. So, right, Jim?
What's that?
Traveling the same route, like River Road in Hadley, you got really tired of doing that route. So you'd say, let's not do that route for a while.
Yeah, I can be a real bug about.
Watch out right here. This, yeah.
I can be a real bug about repeating routes.
Yeah.
Plus, I like to go circular. You know?
Yeah, I was gonna say do a circle.
Yeah, I never like to repeat.
No, he doesn't like to go one way and come back the same way. Even walking, he doesn't
even
like
walking. If I was to walk to Florence, down the bike path, then come back, whatever, another road, Spring Street.
Yep.
Yeah.
Different route.
Yeah. Yep.
How would you describe the type of rides that you do?
As long as they're not too hilly, they're very enjoyable. When we were first going out biking, I had different bikes, but I had this one mountain bike that someone had given me, and I could only go like 25 miles because it was a heavy bike and the tires were big. And there were times that he would say, we'll go up this way, we'll go up that way. And it wound up in this big hill. And I said, I'm never going on another bike ride with you
I
again.
could drive Robin crazy.
So eventually got tired of being blamed for the trail that he took. He says, well, I didn't put this hill there,
I'm
you
not
know.
responsible for the geology of New England. The geography, the terrain. Not my fault.
But
I will tell you one thing. Robin understates how far she can ride. She
Wow.
rides sometimes up with 60, 70 miles. And I always say her deal is petting cows along the way, and my deal is picking up cans for a long time. But we really do just take whatever comes our way
Yeah.
and do it. And we can leave at 8 o'clock in the morning and be gone until 4 o'clock and not pay attention to the time or anything. Right?
Yep.
Sometimes we ride tight to each other, and sometimes we ride.
Yeah. He'll be
far away
ahead of
from
me
each
or
other.
I'll
Like,
be
where the
ahead of
hell
him.
were you?
Yeah.
And we've gotten lost a few times from each other. We got separated from each other a few times.
So we have a rule that just go back to the last place that you were
I
together.
was just gonna ask that, but
Yeah.
Yeah.
you guys don't have phones.
Yeah.
because we have no right.
That's a good.
And we've been in a lot of thunderstorms,
Oh,
trying to outrun them on the bike,
God, have we ever?
trying to find some kind of shelter to go. A lot of barns.
Yup.
Barnes. Nice.
Yep.
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 Robin is, I think I mentioned before, she's very good at finding sandy cans and places to urinate. I wished I had taken photographs of all the places she has. Behind tobacco barns. She loves construction site sandy cans.
That's your favorite.
I love the color blue and green.
Have you ever had to like camp out in a barn or something overnight or anything like that?
No, we haven't had to do that. We've come home and sometimes in the dark, and that's kind of nerve-wracking.
Yeah. We haven't had any really seriously bad things happen, right, Rob?
Oh, one time, yes.
What's that? What was that?
We were with well, it's not bad, but it was really inconvenience. We were doing the Farmington bike path,
Oh, yeah.
and you cross over and you come back and eventually get back on that bike path. And we were coming up a hill, and my chain snapped. And my sister was with us at that time, so we were pretty far out. So I told Jim and my sister to go ahead and get the car, and I would walk. So it was like, I think 8 miles to, where was it? What town was it?
Simsbury.
Simsbury.
Simsbury, Connecticut.
So I just stayed there on the grass until they showed up. So that was about the worst one that we've had.
We've had a few where I've pedaled home, I think. Using your bike, or sometimes I've used, because it's your
pedaled
bike that was the problem. My bike's more the problem than Robin's. Where I've had to pedal home from, 30 miles away, 25 miles away, and you have to stay tight.
It's usually me.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember a story that you told about you in Westfield, and then Robin having to bike home.
I was,
Yeah.
And I was just going to bring that one up,
Yes.
Lucas, because we were in a cemetery. Robin went home, so that was about 20-mile ride from there. And as I was going through the cemetery, I'll never forget, I saw that gravestone as I was reading. It was a guy who died in 1879 or something. Very nice stone, obelisk or whatever they call it, all engraved. But the phrase caught me funny. It said, "Gone but not forgotten," and I thought, I don't think anyone's visited this cemetery stone in probably 100 years.
Yeah.
Even though I had that great saying.
Kind of forgotten.
Kind of forgotten.
He was just hoping that I hadn't forgotten to come back and pick him up.
Yeah.
Sure enough,
2
you
days
did.
later.
Yeah, really.
It's weird when you don't have a cell phone, you don't have any of those connections, and you send, because then, as on the opposite side of it, there's been times when I hope I don't get a flat on the way home, while Robin's sitting somewhere in Greenfield or whatever. If
Yeah,
I got a
know.
flat, that would really throw it off. But we've never run into that, right?
Thank goodness.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you guys carry any like bike fixing stuff
Yes.
with you, like tubes and or
Tubes and
tubes and
patches.
patches.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's about the extent of all we
Yeah.
can fix, though.
Yeah.
And we've had situations. One time we were up in York Beach, and so we were, 30 miles away from Hampton Beach, which has no landline phone or no anything. And remember my seat post broke, and I had to ride on the little knobby thing. And then we managed to get to a
that's
bike.
rough.
Oh yeah, it was terrible. I found a piece of board that I put on top of it. I could kind of rest on it.
Yep. That was a doozy.
Yeah, that was
Yeah.
a doozy, but we pulled it off. Yeah. I'm looking for pictures
Okay.
here. What
This is a two-parter. How has Jim impacted your life, and how have you impacted Jim's life?
Boy. Well, Jim and I are kind of like a little, we have a lot in common, but we're very different in a lot of ways. I'm more conservative in practical, not conservative in my views, but I'm more practical. And he's like a little fly-by-night.
And you're private. You're more private.
Yeah, in private. But we have a lot in common as far as our views go about environment and politics and such as that, and a lifestyle. I think we've just really kind of worked so that we go together. Like I was here, he's there, and we just kind of blended a little bit more together. So he's made me a little bit more relaxed and taking things in stride, and he's getting more nervous.
Am I?
Well, I'm only kidding. Yeah, so I think he's more aware of things that are important in a marriage and being a parent.
Robin's given me the sense of place better. I'd have been like a wandering hobo guy. I always like the image of the hobo with that little tide thing at the end of a stick going around. Oh my God, that just appeals to my senses. Of course, it's not that great, right? But Robin gave me the sense of home. So anything you see that I'm rooted in would be directly Robin's influence. And I think my wandering has like influenced Robin to wander around a little further than she
to
would.
relax.
Go to Hampton, we go to Cape a little bit. She would stay, like Little House on the Prairie. If she could have a little house like Little House on the Prairie, she would be content to stay on that little farm and be happy with life. Wouldn't you say?
Yeah, especially with cows.
Yeah.
I like couple
And
of cows.
I didn't think I would, but I would have been, as it turns out.
Yeah.
Coming out of Worcester, I think I actually, it appealed to me very much. But I probably wouldn't have done it if I had not met Robin. I probably would have been like urban, and thank God I didn't do that. It was just too much.
I think I helped ground him more.
Yeah, grounding is a good word.
And I've gotten a little bit lighter on my feet from grounding. Yeah.
Favorite animal?
Well, not my favorite, but I really love them. I think elephants are my favorite, but seeing that there's no elephant farms around here, I have to settle for cows.
Yeah.
And I do love them. They're just such a people, I think, look at them as if there's nothing special about them, but they are very inquisitive, and I just really enjoy them. I've always wanted to have one in the backyard. But you took over, so I couldn't.
Yeah, it's in the backyard all day.
That's funny. Yeah, cows are nice.
They are, yeah.
It was always nice, like driving through Hadley, and when they're all by their fences, they're like, we can stop right now.
Yes, and you're hoping that they're not going to be freaked out by you, so
Yeah.
that you can get up and pet them, and their long tongue comes out and wraps it around your hand. You know?
Takes you a long
I know.
What's it like living with Jim? Both pros and cons.
You should be on too.
I think he offers me a sense of security, and
Yeah, because I always earn the big bucks.
uh,
Not really.
yeah, he's like a good friend having around all the time that you get along with, and he's reliable, and he's very considerate of us. So so I think that really makes our relationship very, very good. But what he does that I don't like, coming in the house with dirty feet.
Always.
Because I'm very anal when it comes to cleaning and organizing, and he has to always be checking himself out, which is frustrating for him, and frustrating for me too, when he does it. But yeah,
Not eating at the table.
Yeah,
Wandering around when I
yeah,
eat.
wandering around with food after I've cleaned the house, and crumbs or pieces of butter are all over the place. So they're very minor things. Yeah.
How has your relationship evolved over the years that you've seen?
Oh, much better.
Oh, here.
Oh God, yes. You know, you go through the whole dating time and the first few years of being together, and you're, you know, ironing out a lot of stuff, wrinkles in the relationship, and then you have a child and you're both raising them, and one is always, it's never 50-50. Sometimes it's 90-10 in a relationship, and you just have to kind of roll with it at that time. And but I think that it seems like we've connected a lot more in the past maybe 20 years, Jim,
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
We have
Yes.
definitely
where there's not a lot of the pressures of
persevered.
always working full time and stressful jobs. Being a nurse, I was working full time, and it was really, could be very stressful coming home, getting suppers ready, and taking care of the house. And Jim was working full time also. So I think
And
this
we
is,
had different ideas of parenting. Even though we
yes,
only had two
very
kids,
much so. Yeah.
Robin was a hands-on parent. I was like, oh, let him just go outside and play, kind of like a responsible guy, because I was pursuing sort of my stuff that I
Yes.
would drag the kids around. I definitely pursued my stuff looking back on it, you know.
He really did.
Which I think there's
Yeah.
room for, but you know, it wasn't Robin's style, so that was
No.
a big source of
And that developed an imbalance because he
did. This one I'll sit down for a
Yeah.
minute, because it definitely did, and we
Yeah.
persevered through that, I would say, wouldn't
yeah,
you?
because I think Jim is more of a type of person who really he takes care of himself and what his needs are,
It's true.
and me it's like I'm always taking care of others or what needs
The
to be
last
done.
one she would take care of.
Yeah, so I think that causes an imbalance, and sometimes that can cause a lot of friction, especially when you're tired.
Especially when you're in your middle age
Yeah.
time, when, you know, like you're running on all cylinders. You're working full time, you're raising kids, you have a lot of energy, you know, you're trying to stay physically fit, you're trying to do all this stuff. And I really think we did run into that. I mean, I would think every marriage must run into that
Yeah.
at some point, I would think.
And
We did run into it.
things roll off his back before, not so much now. I think it would roll off my back a lot easier, but things would roll off his back a lot easier than I needed him to do. I needed him to come up to the plate a little bit more than he could, or at that time aware of.
My sociability or whatever was rough.
Yep.
And a lot of times, you know, I'm telling, you know, like it's not an excuse, but maybe it is an excuse. Like walking through Florence, there are some days that I don't really feel like shooting the breeze with anyone, but I'm walking through Florence, and so there's no escaping seeing people. And I'm not saying that I dislike running into them, but sometimes it just seems to happen to me. It seems like my life seems to be social, and I used to try to explain that to Robin, but I couldn't really. I wasn't doing a good job of balancing that when we were
Yeah, because
in the middle.
sometimes we'd be
our
riding our
lives.
bikes, and
Different things.
some people that I didn't even know, or they didn't even
Acknowledge you.
acknowledge it, and I'd start talking to Jim.
Yeah, that was weird.
I'd say, okay, I'll see you around the bend. Just keep going.
Yeah, I get irritated.
You'll
you
catch
know,
up
it's
to me
like
when you do.
unbalanced. Yeah,
Yeah.
but anyways, it's a good. It is.
Yeah.
Our life is better now
Yes.
than ever.
It
certainly
really
definitely is.
Yep. So there's hope for all
Anybody.
those other marriages.
I think. Yeah, I do think so.
Colin, do you have anything?
I definitely think that.
I did have something to say about the room. Was that all the questions we had?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I wanted to know, what was it like growing up in Northampton, like as a kid?
Well, I grew up in Florence on Bridge Road, and right down the street from Look Park. which was wonderful. You know, us kids were always at Look Park, and we could get passes. And I had a paper route for 3 years, 52 customers from when I was 10. And you get to go around the neighborhood there also. You know, my mother was kind of more secluded, so we didn't get to know a lot of people like on North Main Street or North Maple Street. We were really right into our own area. But it was the same thing. You go outside and play with the kids, find somebody to play with. Don't come in unless you're bleeding or you have to go to the bathroom. You know, when they need that space. But I loved Northampton when I became, like 14. We'd take the bus down there, girlfriend and I, and we'd walk the streets, go into different shops, you know, stop at Newberry's or that had a fountain there, or Woolworths. It was just really nice, and it was a very festive town. And I still love Northampton.
Have you seen it change in any way?
Oh, God, yes.
How so?
Well, I think since the little stores have, you know, gone out of business, it's just not as homey as it used to be. I think it's for the town, it's great because it's drawn in outsiders to the restaurants and the shops. But it's not as, like I said, McCallum's used to be there where Thorne's Market was. That was a department store, and you could get everything you wanted there. And it was just really nice. You get to see different people that you grew up with walking downtown or hanging out. So yeah, it has changed a lot. It's more of a, it seems like more of an outside town to me than it was when I was growing up.
Rob, Look Park Pool was huge in your life. Did you mention that? I mean, it was like your entire life.
That used to be big, right?
Really big.
That was all day.
Yep. Yep. We would be there swimming, and it was nice and comfy. And then these buses would be driving in from Springfield with all the neighborhood kids. I mean, there were like 6 bus loads, and all of a sudden you couldn't even move. There was like so many people in that pool, and they'd been sitting on that bus for about an hour, and it was hot, and they were ready to have some fun in that pool. So you have arms flailing all over the place, and you have no room to even to swim. But at a certain time, I think it was like around 3 o'clock, they all left. So it was like you had the space again, and the water was a lot warmer too after.
Yeah, sure. Well,
Everyone being in.
Or just the body heat.
Rob, you had that incredible slide too. That kid went up and your sister fell off of.
Yeah.
Very high slide.
Yeah.
That went into the water.
Yeah. I was terrified of that slide. I remember going up when I was like 5 or 6, and I decided I didn't want to go down. But there was a group of kids all the way down there, and they're move it, get just like that guy on Red Ryder BB gun when the kid's there and he sees Santa Claus or something. So I had to go down, and I said, "That's it. I'll never go down here again." So my younger sister said, "Come on." When I got older, she got me enjoying it until I'm right behind her, and she's pulling on the pipe that's ahead that you swing off of, and she fell right off, right to the bottom. On the cement.
Wow.
Yeah, man,
How tall is that?
Rough cement.
It was tall.
It's 10 feet anyhow.
Well, more than 10 feet.
10?
It was. I think it was like about 12 feet. It was huge.
Oh.
And thank
you
goodness.
You would never have anything like that now.
No.
Because it'd be such a safety concern.
Was that where the bumper cars used to be at Look Park?
No, it's where the garden house is. Behind the garden house.
Okay.
Yeah.
That whole where the miniature golf is.
All right.
Oh, you guys don't even remember
I don't
being a pool there, right?
No,
They had bumper boats.
That's what I meant. Bumper.
Yes.
Yeah.
It was exactly where the bumper boats were.
Okay.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was our
It was
livelihood.
all the time.
Oh yeah.
Every kid from Florence went there.
You could go down to Arcanum Field and get free passes once a week for a day pass. But once I got a paper route, I got a year pass at the Look Park pool. It was only $25 to go in there to go swimming.
For one day?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
You know, not to tell your story, but I know you have a tendency not to tell the story as much as I do. But you also had the bus that you went tobacco picking. You used to go tobacco picking as a 14-year-old?
Yeah.
From 6 in the morning till whatever?
Yeah.
and then which is a local story, and then you had the VA, which had 1,200 patients, and they would escape, and the alarm would go off.
We were never
You were
allowed
at the
to.
foot of the hill.
No.
And then you had the railroad that was still operating
Yep.
and going by your house
Yep.
when you were 8 or 9 on your way over to Look Park, so you had to watch for the train.
Yep.
That was kind
So what would happen? You were nursing at the VA?
No,
Oh.
no. This was when I was growing up. We used to go up on the hill and go sliding in the wintertime,
Uh-huh.
you know, across from JFK.
You had holes in the field too.
Yes, yes,
In
we
that same
did.
field. That was big.
So, my mother was always saying, you know, stay clear of the property because at that time there were some veterans out there that they would walk down to Florence and get a couple of nips, and she just wanted us to be careful.
Yeah, they had 1,200 patients, and some was psych, and there was not that big iron gate railing that they put up recently, that
Yeah.
iron
Yeah.
fence. Now there's 50 patients in there, and they put up an iron fence. Before there was 1,200, and they didn't even have medications down, and they'd be whacked. Some guys be whacked, you know,
Yeah.
so I could see why.
Yeah, an alarm would go off, and we would just, you know, the kids would always say, "Oh, somebody's escaped." You know,
Yeah.
I don't even know if that was true.
I
It
know,
just,
I don't either.
you know, the
Yeah.
kids, as kids in the neighborhood, you make this stuff up. But yeah, yes,
Up on the sled and
yeah.
And the tobacco thing was quite the thing.
Yes,
when
it
you're
was all right.
14. Picking tobacco all day, taking a bus.
But I was supposed to work,
Hadley or
huh?
was that
It,
Hadley's?
it wasn't Hadley, it was the Grodniks. And the bus would pick us up about maybe 5:30, 6 o'clock in the morning by the Look Park. And but I was supposed to work 5 days a week, but I would take Monday and Friday off and just kind of wander around downtown and, you know, wander around in the park and then come home saying I worked really hard today.
She was lying to her parents at 14, and that is not Robin's style.
Well, it was back then.
Back
I think
then,
I
yeah.
think all kids kind of get into that.
yeah, definitely.
But yeah.
Plus only 14.
All right,
You
all
can
right.
find many kids doing it now, though. They wouldn't be picking tobacco, and they wouldn't be going off on their own downtown.
Yeah.
I don't see many kids doing that. I'm always
Well,
think it's kind of cool that
yeah.
Yeah,
that stuff happened.
yeah,
Mhm.
yeah. Now kids are more stationary in their homes.
I would say so, right? Or organized. Whatever they're going to is organized.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
they got rides. They're getting. Not too many kids are bombing up on their bikes down from Leeds to hang around Northampton at the age of 14.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Did you guys do it?
I did. Yeah,
Did you do it? So maybe I'm
Yeah.
way wrong.
but I think
I
that
think this changed
Yeah.
even since we were kids.
I mean technology is like
Oh, so you guys brought up the rear of that.
yeah,
Yeah.
I think so.
Well, plus mothers were homebound, you know, a lot of them. And there was only one car, and usually the father had the car to go to work. So you were on your own as far as getting somewhere. So either you walked or you rode your bike,
Good
or
point,
the
yeah.
or the bus.
Yeah.
So yeah, you didn't have those choices. That's why my mother locked you out the door. And so, get out.
Did she lock the door?
Yes, she did.
That's so
That's
cool.
funny.
She locked the door and don't bother me unless there's an accident. But my mother wasn't the only one who did that either. I've heard.
Everyone was locked.
That's why they call them the lock and key kids, except there was no key.
Yeah. That's funny.
Yeah, you had a good setup. Plus, I've been told that you could virtually take a nap on Bridge Road in front of Robin's house when she was a kid.
Traffic was
No, 'cause
There
nil.
was no traffic.
We used to have a game
There's
that
no
we used to,
school.
yep, no school, not until 66. But we used to, as kids, we'd play this game of each one of us would pick a color car, and we'd count them as they went by. And you'd be sitting there for 5 minutes, and there's no car coming by, you know. One would have a blue car, green car, red car, and see who got the most of their color.
Take you a whole afternoon
But yeah,
to get
Wait,
to
where's Bridge Road?
you know, right across from JFK, the junior
Oh,
high.
okay. Yeah, yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
It was a big white house, kind of adjacent to it.
Robin's folks' house was right across from JFK driveway, and then I moved into the house facing the house to the left, probably even to the left.
So neighbors,
driveway.
right next to each other.
Yep, neighbors,
Wow.
neighbors.
But I wasn't living there at the time.
wasn't
This is when,
Yeah, when I was 20,
yeah,
she had Lisa,
yeah.
and then we ended up moving and owning the trailer that's on the other side of Robin's house.
Yeah, I
So
wanted
across
to-
the street there. Is that it?
They have
across
that big
from
fence
Warner's.
in Mass. You
Yeah.
can't even
Yeah,
see
yeah.
each other.
Yeah, he has cat.
Mm.
Catwalk.
Hmm.
Rob, Alice LaFleur died yesterday. It was in the
She did?
paper. Yeah,
Oh, that's too
I
bad.
meant to tell you. It was Alice LaFleur and Bob LaFleur owned the Leeds Mart down here way back when, and they sold us the trailer.
Oh
And
wow.
I bought the trailer off of them.
Huh.
That was our first big
Yep.
financial windfall gain. Yeah.
Happy St. Patty's Day, by the way.
Thank you,
Yes.
too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're going to the parade Sunday if I think. With 30-mile-an-hour winds and freezing cold temperatures.
Oh wow.
Wait,
Have you ever been to the parade?
Yeah.
Where?
In Holyoke?
Yeah. Holyoke?
I've been.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Parade.
Seems like a lot of
Feel
fun.
like parade.
Yeah. My parents would never let me go when I was younger. Everyone's getting drunk and.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Unruly. It depends on where you're standing.
Yeah, that's the perception. but
Yeah, it's where you are.
Yeah.
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 It really
that
is.
makes sense.
It's a good day in Holyoke.
I think did you guys hear about like 2 weeks ago when there was Blarney or a week ago at
Yeah.
UMass
Yes.
and they had those jugs?
Yes, all those plastic
Yeah.
jugs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, seriously.
Yeah.
Honest to God, the things they come up with.
I know. What they call it? Borg?
Yeah, boy.
Yeah. You know the whole thing.
He
I saw
would.
pictures of the trash cans after when they collected them. Giant trash cans piled up as high as the roof of this house in giant piles.
Yeah.
It's obnoxious.
Yeah, it is. I wasn't around for then. I think I was in South Carolina.
Were you?
Yeah. And I ended up somebody sent me the news clip
Yeah.
that it was on and I was like,
Oh my god.
Well, it's good they're recyclable.
yep.
That's the positive thing on that.
I have a friend of mine who's a landscaper. Well, he's out. I think he was actually doing something with snow, and he caught his. He had to get 18 stitches on it by his thumb. He almost lost his thumb. It happened Saturday afternoon when he was in the middle of 20 kids being brought in by ambulance. So he sat, needed to be stitched, 18 stitches.
jeez.
He told me he sat for 6 hours because that was all getting dealt with. And I had heard that people were really put out because of this.
Yeah. Yeah.
In more
sure.
ways than one.
And I mean, that's every year they have
Yep.
a huge.
Oh, yes.
It's all those Eastern Mass kids.
It is.
Like Jim
They're all those
Myers.
hardcore Eastern Mass kids.
Yeah.
Those Worcester kids.
Like Jim Myers'
Worcester
crew.
East.
Yeah. Yeah, you should be proud of them.
Yeah,
Yeah.
in some ways I used to be.
Yeah.
I'm matured now.
Yeah. Yeah, it is crazy. I mean, there's the majority of people that I meet there are all from Eastern Mass or
Yeah.
Central or Eastern Mass.
UMass is huge for Eastern Mass, I think.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm sure everyone's like,
just
oh,
far enough away from home.
Yeah.
It's true common. Yeah.
That's why I didn't want to go to UMass because it wasn't.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And in our age group too, I meet lots of people who went to UMass who are from Eastern Mass who fell in love with the area
Yeah.
and have stayed here.
Yeah, I'm sure. Yeah.
There's a fair amount of that kind
This-
of crowd.
This area is a gem. I do feel that way. It's a gem from Massachusetts and New England. You know, it's
It really
With
is.
you
yeah.
Yep.
through and through.
Yeah.
I was really, in looking back, it's like my parents picked a perfect place
Yeah.
to settle down and have a house. I mean, its location is great. Hop, skip, and a jump to the center of Florence. Brook Park is right down the street. Your church, your parish, everything is right there, local.
Mm-hmm.
It
Yeah,
was,
and even like you're next to mountains, you're next to the beach,
yes,
you're next to the city.
yep,
It's nice.
it is.
It's all within a bike ride away.
It is. Yeah, it is.
Some people,
For
right?
you guys. Yeah.
In a bike ride away.
All right.
Yeah, I think we're done with this.